We're talking about overcoming challenges and making your own footprint this morning. Here to share his stories and lessons learned is Dr. Nat Williams, the founder of Human Works and the host of Navigating Your Own Life here on WFMZ-TV. Nat, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Great to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Well, I know in your spare time you do a lot of writing. You're a man of many jobs, a busy guy. And I know you've written a lot in the past about letting go, but until recently you hadn't really written about an incident that really shook your own life, right?
Sure. When I was 5 years old, I lost my mother to a cranial aneurysm and then was placed in foster care for 13 years. And one of the things you don't realize as you're going through things is how things really impact you. And one day when I looked at, where I was, and it was maybe about 5 years ago, I recognized I was still stuck in the moment of being angry and frustrated, and I really had to realign that. So that was a journey that began, and it's still ongoing.
Yeah, sure. And how would you describe the impact that such a tragedy had on you as a young kid growing up?
So often we touch that situation with the hands of a 5-year-old, and because it's so difficult, we never go back again to deal with it. And I think that's the effect that it has on us, is that we're stuck in that moment and we just don't realize that we are. And what I share with people is that I recognized that I stood at my mother's casket for 35 years and not realizing that I was standing there. And so you go on, you get married, you have children, you have jobs, but you don't realize that some of the issues that you had regarding that still linger in your life.
What do you think it took to help you get past, standing in your own way, as you call it in your article? What did it take to really have that aha moment, so to speak?
I wrote a book called The Affordability Factor, and I really think if you want to start affording yourself something better, I think that's the moment when you realize that things could be better if I just, the only person standing in my way is me, and if I could figure out a way to realign myself. So it really was just recognizing I wanted so much more, and the question was how was I going to get that?
And how hard was it to really get past it? I know you just mentioned you're still working on it. And I think a lot of people think when they go through a tragedy like this that they should be back to normal kind of overnight, but that's not the case, right?
And it's really putting it out there, letting people in your life know, and trying to be more transparent. Communicating is really important. So it's not a secret. A colleague of mine, Lee McLeod, says, we're as sick as our secrets. And so a lot of times these situations are unbeknownst to others, and a lot of times we refuse to talk about it. So I think that's part of the process of beginning to open the dialogue.
And if you don't open the dialogue, and if you don't really process what you've gone through, how can the tragedies, impact people if they don't really process them?
One of the things I recognize in working with a lot of people is that this generation that we're in, if we're not careful, I think we're going to be 2 times worse than the previous generation. That I think the price tag, because of all the advances that we have, is so much greater. So before the other generations improved each and every time, we're at a situation that if we don't talk about these issues and work them through, we'll look at our children and they'll be, twice as bad or worse off than we are, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So just recognizing that for a lot of people, they begin to understand, I got to do something.
So an important subject here, Nat. And how would you say that, what you've been through, how has that shaped the man you've become today and impacted your life today?
I guess there are positive things and there are some challenges. One of the things, I'm a big person about neatness, and so that, can drive some people crazy because of that. But on the other hand, I think the level of concern and compassion for others and their struggle. I was having lunch yesterday with a family member, and it reminded me, I'm not interested in being a social worker. You may be, but I'm not. So reality is, I think it does take a real interest in your life and a focus in your life because of these kinds of situations.
Yeah. And of course, this is the topic of tonight's show, Navigating Your Own Life, here on WFMZ-TV. It's at 8:30. And why did you really want to get this message out there, Nat? Why is now an appropriate time?
You're going to meet Zak in a minute, and I was reading an article, and his story was there about his father and really taking a different pathway for his life, and that really got me to start thinking. And we have another guest who's a young man who was born in Russia and was adopted and brought here. He has cerebral palsy and some other challenges, but wrote a book and is really trying to give back. And we have some other gentlemen that started some companies, but really recognize that this is our time and we have to do something about it and make our own footprint. So that was really the genesis. But as you'll meet with Zak, you'll understand that the stories are very powerful about people that said, I don't care where I came from, I'm more concerned where I'm going.
Great. Sounds like a powerful show, and maybe a good one for some of our, older kids to even watch with mom and dad tonight.
I hope so.
Great. Well, as you mentioned, Zak's story, he is the son of a terrorist, and we're going to hear about how he turned his childhood into promoting nonviolence, and a really amazing story. He's coming up next just after the break.